How to Level Up, featuring Counterside. To jump on the back of a meme that was recently popular, science fiction is when you level up characters with battle data, and fantasy is when you level up characters with potions. This holds pretty well generally. For example, Nike, Goddess of Victory, uses battle data, and Swordmaster Story uses potions. And those settings are straightforwardly sci-fi and fantasy respectively. But there is one game I know of that uses the most accurate level up system there is. In Counterside, you level up your characters with money. It's worth mentioning that lots of games require currency for leveling. That isn't quite what I mean here. Money is often used as a secondary resource, so that players have to do more resource grinding to progress, and have a way to motivate sales of packs and cards. But in Counterside, the money is the primary resource, and I know that simply because leveling characters is called salary negotiation. Using items to level up characters is actually a little weird when you think about it. In most traditional RPGs, whether digital or tabletop, you level up your characters with experience. And the characters have to gain the experience themselves. It can't be written to a storage device, or literally bottled. Fantasy games tend to handwave this by just naming the leveling items experience potions, or maybe something like spirit essence, and calling it a day. Calling it battle data is a bit of a higher effort approach, because it really is possible to learn from the experience of others to some extent. And of course, sometimes the game just calls the leveling item XP and doesn't try to justify it. Unfortunately, the extent is quite limited when it comes to combat prowess or any other practical skill. Whether it's cooking, coding, or karate, skills like this require hands-on experience. The easiest sci-fi justification is to say that it's some kind of virtual simulation, like a time-compressed holodeck program, or maybe a direct neural implant, like how Neo learns Kung Fu. And in fact, The Matrix is the first piece of fiction I can think of that used this trope of instant experience. But what if the person is already skilled? In Counterside, you aren't summoning heroes from another universe, you're hiring them. They arrive by helicopter, not a mystic portal. What can make someone like that more effective? The simple answer is, pay them more. Of course, you need a justification for doing that, so the secondary resource is the more scarce item: appraisals. In other words, money is what makes the character more effective, and appraisals are what justify this. It's exactly parallel to a situation with battle data as the primary and money as the secondary resource. The battle data is making the character more effective, so what's the money for in terms of the in-universe justification? Paying server costs or something? Point is, the money isn't doing the work in most games, but in Counterside it is. I get a lot of enjoyment from memes making fun of LinkedIn influencer culture. One trope that shows up a lot is the clueless boss who has been convinced that pizza is more motivating than money after reading some dodgy study. Now, I like my job, but whenever I get a raise, I can feel my effectiveness increase, almost as if by magic. Don't get me wrong, office parties can be fun in their way, and free food is always nice, but money is fungible. I can pay bills or buy booze with it. Money is something that we need, so we exchange labor for it. And the more money we get, the more labor or higher quality labor we're usually willing to provide. If you Google "rewards don't work," you get a lot of material to read and watch on this idea. To quote a Harvard Business Review article called "Why Incentive Plans Cannot Work" by Alfie Kohn, incentives, quote, "do not create an enduring commitment to any value or action. Rather, incentives merely, and temporarily, change what we do." I'm in no position to challenge the opinions in the Kohn article, or the studies used to support them. What I can do is think about what kind of professionals actually are motivated by money. I happen to have a mission-driven job where I get to be creative and autonomous. For me, money doesn't seem like an attempt at manipulation or a wedge to force me to compete with my colleagues. It seems like an acknowledgement of my professionalism. The more of it I get, the more professional I feel, and the harder I'm willing to work in certain ways. I used to make a lot less. And back then, I did some pretty creative work, arguably more creative than what I do now. Of course, I was younger then, so that's another variable, and it was for a different employer, another variable yet. On the other hand, I was a loose cannon, and I made questionable decisions. Articles like the one I mentioned talk about people feeling as though a task you have to be bribed to do is seen to be less worthwhile, undermining creativity. I mean, maybe, but I don't see my salary as a bribe. It's what my employer exchanges for work. My motivation comes from myself, but the human social need to be recognized as a valuable member of the group is also strong for me. Money is a component of status, and I happen to be highly motivated by status. I'm currently taking on a volunteer position, and I've done so in the past because of the status it offers. I'll need to read these studies, I guess, but I suspect that the reason some professionals feel bribed or disrespected by money is because they have a lot of it already. They want autonomy and purpose and creativity. I have those things, but not money or status. We are motivated by what we don't have out of the set of resources we need and want. So, why does this work in Counterside? I can't claim to know how military contractors think, but one constant I've noticed in fiction is how mercenaries are motivated by money. Probably because only people who are motivated by money choose this career. This is a dangerous job that presents a very real risk of dying at work. Good pay helps compensate for the risks of this profession. Compare this to national military service, which isn't as highly compensated but carries the motivation of service to the country. So I guess what I'm saying is that motivation is complicated. Some people really are motivated by grades or money, despite what the articles or videos might say. We have different needs and wants and exist at different levels of wealth, which lead us to make decisions about our activities for a variety of reasons. I just know this. In terms of realism, if you want to level characters up with items, it's hard to improve on massive bricks of cash.